Thank you so much for joining in. It's a pleasure to have all of you here, and especially it's an honor to have our today's speaker, our guest, Dr. Abira Bhattacharya. I've known her through her work for quite some time, and it's an honor to have her as a first guest for this new lecture series that we are trying to initiate. We are not a very professional sort of, we are a new platform in terms of, trying to try new things in terms of getting history and archaeology, out there for the people in general public. And today's topic, in fact, it's quite interesting. And I remember telling this to Dr. Bhattacharya that this topic is very interesting and it's quite relevant today. So to introduce Dr. Bhattacharya, I would like to call my colleague Divyansh to introduce Dr. Bhattacharya and to request her to start her lecture.
Very happy good afternoon, everybody. Let me introduce her. Dr. Abira Bhattacharya is a curatorial is the assistant curator of the Department of Anthropology at the National Museum, New Delhi since 2016. She's been awarded PhD degree in art history for her doctoral thesis titled Sculptures of Buddhist Goddesses in Eastern India, an aesthetic and iconographic study, 8th to 12th century CE, from the Department of Art History, History of Art, that is Indian Institute of Heritage, formerly National Museum, New Delhi. She has also undertook a diploma in the Tibetan language from the Tibetan House, Delhi. As a curatorial staff, she has compiled, conceptualized, and designed and curated exhibitions through international and national collaborations, permanent displays and temporary exhibitions, and theme-based departmental exhibitions, and worked on several writing projects, that is, catalogs for the National Museum collection. She has worked as part of the curatorial team of the three major projects undertaken by the Ministry of Culture, Government of India in 2023, namely International Museum Expo, Festival of Libraries and International Festivals of Libraries, and International Art, Architecture and Design Biennale. She has actively presented research papers and traveled widely across Southeast Asia as part of her research and documentation, which focuses on the anthropological studies and iconographic development of Buddhist deities in Eastern India and the transmission of Southeast Asia. Through her experience in this discipline, she aspires to create a dialogue between the theoretical aspects of art history and the practical applications in the field of curatorial practices, gender studies, and community engagement by bridging the gap between tangible and intangible cultural heritage. She has received many travel grants for study tours, workshops, and paper presentations. Her recent publications include Shanguli and Savangi, retracing the precursors of Mansa cult in Eastern India, Motherhood in the Realm of Eastern India and Himalayan Art, an iconographic study of visual forms of Prajnaparamita from the National Museum, New Delhi, and many more. So I welcome Dr. Bhattacharya on behalf of the Confessions of Archaeologists team and on behalf of our audience for the lecture.
Hello, can you hear me?
Disha ma'am, you're not audible.
Thank you so much, Divyanshan, and thank you so much, Dr. Bhattacharya, for joining us today. It's an honor to have you, and I think it's time. I'm super excited to go through your lecture, and I'm sure all of us are. So I have shared the. I think you can share the screen now, and we can commence.
From an art historical viewpoint, and also I would touch upon certain aspects of religion and philosophy, which has been the foundation of such a development. So this first slide, which is on the introduction, it gives an overview, like what is the objective of this whole presentation. So I would be discussing the depiction of women and its ideation in Buddhist tradition, how the Buddhist tradition has witnessed a change from women being featured as yakshini courtesans to becoming the mother of Buddha. And at the end, in Vajrayana Buddhism, we see a lot of tantric consorts and practitioners also. So women were not only considered as divine beings, but then their position as writers, their position as philosophers also became quite pertinent during the Vajrayana Buddhism. So the time period which I'm going to deal in this presentation is mainly the early medieval phase, which is from the 8th century to 13th century. And this presentation is also a part of my PhD thesis. So I'm going to talk about certain things in detail, and also considering the paucity of time, I would be focusing more on imageries. Going to the next slide. The aim and objectives. I think the previous one before that, yes. So these are the pointers, like the ruminations on the changing viewpoint of Buddhism on women and her body. So the ideation of body is very important. How a woman body has been perceived in the early Buddhist tradition and how it changed. It also changed the identity of a woman from the concept of universal mother to the female bodhisattva and the female Buddha. And gender subjective iconographic forms also appeared during the same time period. So during the Mahayana phase, we see gender based imageries, and which became more pertinent in the Vajrayana phase. Then while talking about women's identity, we also need to consider how the negative valuation was initially done, and why the women were not considered to be I would say to become a part of the Buddhist Sangha, and also they were not considered entitled to become a female Buddha or to attain enlightenment. So this misogynist approach is also reflected in the iconographic study of the devotional imageries. Then the fourth point is on the changing undercurrents of gynocentric ideas. So how the whole conception of negative valuation was also undergoing a change, and there was the whole idea was a bit paradoxical. So we see certain uh, like certain thoughts which are completely against women, while at the same time we see women deified as a superior deity in Buddhism. So there are certain concepts of spiritual limitations, androcentric biased views, gender transformation, spiritual hierarchy, and personification of wisdom and non-duality. So these are certain factors which I have, while I was doing my research, I was able to refine those factors, and based on these factors, I try to give an explanation to the iconographic forms, which I'm going to discuss in the preceding slides. Then the fourth point is examine and analyze the underlying historical and socio-cultural factors which added to the progression of the cultic practices in Eastern India, and also to the diffusion to Southeast Asia and other regions of the world, especially Asia. So in the cult which developed in Eastern India, it became quite popular in the Himalayan belt, and at the time period when Buddhism was waning in India, and also at the same time it traveled to Southeast Asia as well. So in the next slide, female body in early Buddhist literature, just to give an overview how there was a sharp ideological distinction seen between the physical forms of female and male body, and how this is reflected in the Theravada canon, and just to see the change, how it became a different gamma in Mahayana Buddhism. It is important to understand the conception of female body in early Buddhist literature. So in the early text, the female body is considered to have endowed with negative traits and filled with different kind of symbols of impermanence, impurity, deception, and suffering. And their body was considered as like object of desire, which can cause revulsion. And that kind of marginal thought process, especially meant for the woman, could be seen in the text, where woman body is considered to be like she's considered as considered to be related to Mar, the tempter, and also her body is attached to the desire of worldly attachment. So, considering all these factors, she was not considered suitable for the path of enlightenment or the bodhisattva path. In the next slide, I have taken one reference of Ananda, which is narrated in the Vinaya, and it talks about when Buddha attained Mahaparinirvan, women were not allowed to witness the body the of the great being, and there was a whole debate with Ananda and Mahakassapa. So these are the lines where women are considered ashamed of their own body, and they are not meant to see the mark of Mahapurush Lakshana of Buddha, and the same tussle which happened within the Sangha also led to the inclusion of women. So we know how we can see the wife of Gautama or Siddharth was included in the Sangha, and how the initiations were done, and how nuns became an important part of the Buddhist Sangha. Yet there was a lot of revulsion because women were considered not to have endowed with the Mahapurush Lakshan of a great man. Then going to the next slide, the next one. When we talk about female body, at the same time, when we see the Buddhist literature is kind of completely against the ideology of considering the impurities of woman body, but at the same time, we see the Queen Maya, the mother of Buddha, has been idealized as a superior identity of womanhood within Buddhism, and she's considered pious, she's considered full of compassion, and this is reflected by the imageries. Like, we see a lot of images associated with Maya's conception, giving a divine identity to womanhood. But then we see plethora of images from the Gandhara period, and also in the Mathura, and also in Sanchi, that we see the representation of Queen Maya, either the dream of the conception through the white elephant, or the birth of Siddharth. So, woman's body is considered as impure because she is giving birth and she is menstruating. But at the same time, such imageries and the textual references, which are again associated with her purity, shows the paradoxical nature of the Buddhist text, and how there was a whole dichotomy which is seen in the images and the text. Then in the next slide, the next slide shows the dream of Maya in Barut, and also in Sanchi. So we can see the parallel imageries which are developing at whether in the Gandhara period and also in the Shubh Satvahana phase. Then another female imagery which is very important, apart from the representation of Maya Devi, is Gajalakshmi. In the next slide, we can see the Gajalakshmi medallion from Bharut, and also the representation of Gajalakshmi is plenty in the Sanchi Stupa. If we see the Sanchi Stupa image, just next to Gajalakshmi, we also see the backside of a Yakshini figure. So this was, I would say, this was the beginning where the mortal and the divine form of female representation started appearing in Buddhist art. We, at one side, we see the mother of Buddha, and on the other side we see Yakshini imageries which were connected to the nature spirits, and also the appearance of Gajalakshmi. So Gajalakshmi has been seen in Jainism and Buddhism, and also in Hinduism. And by certain scholars, they also compare like how Gajalakshmi, the anointing of Gajalakshmi by the elephant, is also associated with the dream of Maya scene. So there have been a lot of conjectures based on the iconographic interpretation of such imageries. In the next slide, we can see the Yakshini images from Mathura. So there are a lot of Yakshini imageries, as I said, like they are connected to the nature spirits, and most of such imageries, they acted as a part of the railing pillars. And apart from that, we all are aware cult. So the Hariti cult gained popularity not only in India but also in China, in the Far East, and in Southeast Asia. And the Buddhist texts have several stories related to the cult of Hariti. So Hariti is with her thrown with her consort Panchashika, and he is considered as the counter as a representation or a manifestation of Kuber Yaksha. So Hariti has a lot of stories. One of the stories showcases her as a demoness who is devouring on children. And at one day, like when her own child was taken away, and just to teach her a lesson how she was creating misery to the people of Rajgriha, then she went for refuge to Buddha, and Buddha taught her the dharma. In another story from the Thai Buddhist, from the Thai and Burmese tradition, it is said that she is the mother of the dharma. So there are different kind of interpretations associated to the cult of Hariti and her association with the children. So this, I would say, the representations of Hariti, the form of protective deities. So we see the nature spirits in form of Yakshini and the kind of protective deities. They were foundational for the efflorescence of the Buddhist goddess cult, which we see in the Mahayana, in the later Mahayana phase, and I would say in the Vajrayana phase. So all these, like as we all are aware, like in the Theravada phase, we see the symbolic presence of Buddha, but at the same time, we see a lot of such imageries of divine beings, which were appearing in the Buddhist art. Then going to the next slide. So this slide mainly discusses about the Mahayana conception of female bodhisattvahood. So earlier, as I said, we were discussing about this transformation from a mortal characteristic to a divine form. But now there are more concepts which were introduced in the Mahayana Sutras. So Mahayana Sutra firstly introduced the concept of gender transformation. So to attain enlightenment, the woman body has to abandon the bodily defilements, and she has to undergo a change of gender. And such gender change is important to attain the needful cognitive abilities. And Maharatna Kuta Sutta, Gangotara Sutra, and Sadharam Pundarik Sutta, and even Ashram Sahasrika Pragya Paramita Sutta, all showcases such stories, which says like the gender transformation is an important and inevitable way to attain enlightenment for a woman. Then the next thing, we can see the progression. In the next part, I'm like I discuss about the Ashtasahasrika Pragya Paramutta Sutra, but also Karandavyuha Sutra and Gandavyuha Sutra. So in these three texts, however, in the first text, especially, the gender transformation is shown, but at the same time, we see the introduction of female as Kalyan Mitras. So they are the spiritual guides, and then they are helping the bodhisattvas to attain enlightenment. So in the first category, they are not at all entitled. However, in the second one, these three sutras, she is becoming a divine being who has a certain limit of enlightened features, and she is in the path of becoming a bodhisattva, and she is becoming a good guide. But in the third format, which is the concept of motherhood, transcendental and non-duality, these are the important texts where the Pragyaparamita Sutta is a compendium of text, and the Diamond Sutra, the Heart Sutra, all they are part of the Pragyaparamita Sutra. So in totality, and the Tathagat Garb Sutra, the Mahayan Sutra Alankar, and the Vimal Kirti Nirdesh Sutra, it says like the woman or these Kalyan Mitras or the female bodhisattvas, they don't need to undergo a sexual change. They are they have the religious aspiration to become bodhisattva or the Buddha, and they also these texts also culminated to talk about the concept of universal emptiness, non-duality, which is again discussed in the Pali text and also in the Mahayana Sutras in detail. Then the next slide is about visualization of female body in Tantric Buddhism. So the Tantric Buddhism has a lot of branches, and it shares a lot of similarity from the Shaiva and Shakta tradition of the Brahmanical tradition, or I would say the Hindu traditions, and a lot of common features are seen. Like we see the Yogini Tantras, and inspired from the Yogini Tantras, a lot of different tantras also appeared, like He Vajra Tantra and Chakra Samvat Samagraha. But the most important text in the which led to the foundation of the Tantric Buddhism, I would say it's the Guha Samaj Tantra, which appeared during the 4th, 5th century, and it extensively talks about the Tantric pantheon, like the Vajrayana pantheon, like how the 5 Dhyani Buddhas appeared and how they have a consort, and how each and every deity in Vajrayana Buddhism should be endowed with different kind of attributes, with different kind of color symbolism. Then the text talks about the visualization of deity and the rituals associated with it, the sadhanas and the mantras, and how these sadhanas and mantras, they can be converted into a visualization of a mandala. And another important text is Nishpanna Yogavali and Sadhanamala. They were all compiled, both of them, they were compiled during the Pala period, during 12th century, 11th to 12th century, I would say. And these texts led to the, I would say, the proliferation of the female cult, because uh, each section has a sadhana, which not only helps the art historians and iconographers to understand the meaning of the attributes, but then also it helps us to understand the rituals associated with these deities. Then going to the next section. In the next slide, I would like to show you the representation of women as teachers and consorts of the Tantric adepts. In the entire presentation, I'm trying to discuss the role and position of women, not only from a perspective of a goddess, but also as who were an important part of the society. So in the next slide, I have taken one image from Alchi, and it is the Manjusri image, the huge Manjusri image, which is quite popular. But if we see the dhoti of the Manjusri, it is painted with 84 Mahasiddhas. And amongst those 84 Mahasiddhas, there are 4 Mahasiddhas who are female. So again, there are a lot of different Vajrayana text which gives a list of 84 siddhas, 64 siddhas, and the number not only keeps changing, but also in certain texts they don't mention about those four female siddhas. But I would say the earliest depiction of the entire cosmography of 84 siddhas could be seen in this Alchi image. Then the next image is about Chandra Goman, like he is a Mahasiddha, one of the 84, and he can be shown seated with a yog pat. But at the top of, if we see at the apex of the stele, there is a female figure, and that is Tara. So if we compare both the images, now we can see the role of women as a part of the 84 siddhas or the tantric adepts. But at the same time, the tantric adepts, even the male tantric adepts, they were preaching, or they were, I would say, they were invoking female deities. So this, we can understand that how female were so important, and then they reached an important position during the Vajrayana phase. In the next slide, which is the Thanka of Vajradhara. So Vajradhara or Vajradhara is again a manifestation of Vajra Sattva only, the sixth Dhyani Buddha. And in many of the Thankas, he is shown surrounded by the 84 or the 85 Siddhas. So there is a list by Vajrasan. This is a text. And then another text is Abhay Datta Sri. So these are the names of the four female Siddhas: Manibhadra, Mekhala, Kankana, and Lakshminkara. So Lakshminkara was the sister of Indrabhuti, who was the king during the Bhaumakara dynasty of Orissa during 7th to 8th century, and he was very instrumental in in professing Vajrayana Buddhism from the eastern part of India to far east and also in the Himalayan region. Then in the next slide, I have taken one imagery of Mahasiddha. And again, just to showcase how Mahasiddhas were invoking goddesses. So in this image, we can see the hierarchical position of the goddess could be seen uh, from from her scale. So she is larger in size as compared to the Siddhas. So how the females are extending the position could be seen in the painted imageries and also in sculptures. In the next slide, I have taken Naratma in Virupa. So Virupa was again one of the Siddhas, and he is showing the same, like not the same throne, but a throne. He is shown seated to an adjacent throne, lotus throne to Naratma. So Naratma is the tantric deity, and she is considered as the consort of He Vajra. Then Padmasambhava with consort. So we know about Padmasambhava. He was a 7th century spiritual Buddhist spiritual leader, or you can say a tantric adept who traveled from India to Tibet, and he became the I would say he led the foundation of the Tara cult, and also he professed the Indian scriptures in Tibet. So he had two female consorts, like the main consorts, Mandarva, who was a queen from Himachal Pradesh, Revalsar. Still today, there is a temple at Revalsar. And then we had, then the other consort was Yeshe Sogyal. She was from Tibet. So there is a whole text, writings by Yeshe Sogyal and Mandarva, which showcases the struggle of how it was very difficult for even for the consort of Padmasambhava to sustain herself in the path of enlightenment. There were social stigmatization, which even both of them suffered while undergoing this path of enlightenment and while accompanying their own consort. Then coming to the next slide, Buddhist goddesses. So the Buddhist goddesses are considered as the Sambhogkaya form. In Buddhism, there is a concept of three kaya. There is Nirman Kaya, Dharma Kaya, and Sambhogkaya. So all the celestial forms are considered as Sambhogkaya. Even the Dhyani Buddhas are considered as Sambhogkaya. So the Buddhist goddesses, they appear from the Bija mantras. So the speech element is manifesting into a form of a goddess, and there are dharinis, there are vidyas, there are dakinis. So then there is a these terms, I would say, they are they are a part of the mental invocation, but then they also mean to carry, to bear, to know knowledge. So they are the bearer of knowledge, and each of such mantra or dharini has different set of power, iconography, and ritual, and they could be shown as benign, compassionate, but they could be also wrathful in nature. So they have distinctive characteristics. Now, going to the next slide, the dissemination of the cult of Buddhist goddesses. So, how like such huge or such rich repository of images could only be made possible because of the patrons. So, the Eastern Indian rulers, the rulers in the Deccan region, patronized the cult of Buddhist goddesses. We see the Pal dynasty in Eastern India, which ruled over Bihar, Bengal, erstwhile Bengal, including Bangladesh, and also the Bhaumakara rulers in Odisha. Then we see imageries from Madhya Pradesh as well, some from Kalchuri dynasty, and some even from the Chalukya phase, but the majority is seen in especially in the Pal period and the Bhaumakara period. And then going little further, we see images, a lot of images from the Deccan region, especially Ellora. The cave number 13 and 12 are quite popular for such imageries. And if we go back little from the beginning, then we see such imageries, like early imageries, 7th, 8th century. There are imageries from Kashmir as well. So this is quite interesting to keep a track or to outline the geographical and the regional variations seen in the cultic practices as well. Going to the next slide. So to begin just to while I'm giving an overview, the most popular form in India, I would say it's Tara. And a lot of people, they think like the cult of Buddhist goddesses is almost equivalent to Tara, which I would say it is untrue. That Tara is considered as the embodiment of universal compassion. But then according to the scriptures which say like each syllable of the Tara Tantra of the Tara mantra is equivalent to one individual form. So there are like Om Tare, Tu Tare, Ture Swaha. It has 11 syllables, and which is leading to 11 forms. So Khadiravani Tara, Mahasri, Mahatari, Arya Tara, Dhanad, Durgo Tarani, Ashtama Bhaya Tara. These are different forms which can be differentiated by looking at the iconographic distinction. So the main attribute is definitely Utpal, which connects her with her consort Avalokiteshvara. But then apart from that, like in the middle image of Khadiravani Tara, we have two more consorts. There is Ekajata and Ashokakanta Marichi. Then the last image, which is Ashtamahabhaya Tara, it showcases the 8 different hurdles in the path of enlightenment. So they all are like kind of materialistic in nature, like somebody attacked by a robber or by a tiger or bitten by a snake. And such forms of Tara, they appeared in close connection with the appearance of Avalokiteshvara. So if we go back and see the Deccan imageries of Aurangabad, we see such Ashtamahabhaya Tara is seen in the cave number 4 of Aurangabad of Avalokiteshvara. And how Mahayana Buddhism was entering into the Vajrayana phase, and with the proliferance of female imageries, Tara became comparable to Avalokiteshvara, and she started sharing the same characteristics or traits. Then such a thing is also seen in Kanheri. Then in the next slide, we could see the 4-headed and 8-armed Vajratara. So Nishpani Ogavali talks extensively about Vajratara, and it gives like sadhana number 95, 96, 97. These are the sadhanas which are dedicated to the visualization of Tara. And she is in this mandala, which is from Bhagalpur Pathargata, which is in the Indian Museum, Calcutta at current. This showcases the 8-armed goddess seated in the center in the lotus mandala, and she is accompanied by 8 more female accompanying deities like Dweep Tara, Dhoop Tara, etc. And also Ushinish Vijaya and Sumba are 2 more deities who are considered to be at the apex and at the bottom of the mandala. So such mandalas, they were they all had a very complex visualization nature, like with the unfurling of each petal, the visualizer or the meditator enters into one circle of the visualization. And again, such concepts are very dense to understand, where the 3 element, the speech element, the mind element, and the body element has to be combined. And then the visualizer or the meditator enters from one phase to another, and he visualizes Tara as whether the green Tara is associated with Amog Siddhi. Then he enters into a yellow visualization, which is associated with Ratna Sambhav. So all these 5 Dhyani Buddhas are shown at the top of the headdress of the first sculpture, which is from the NM collection. And the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, like all the combined powers of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, are endowed in the form of Vajratara. Then going to the next slide, as I was talking about the Tara's association with Avalokiteshvara, this is a good representation just to showcase. This is one of the earliest imageries from the Nalanda site number 3, and there is also a brick inscription which proves that this is the earliest representation of Tara. The Tara image, you can see she is not like an individual goddess, but she is a part of the retinue of Avalokiteshvara, along with the other Vidyadharinis, and she is the Mahavidyadharini. So she is like the presiding leader of all the Dharinis, and such imageries showcase Avalokiteshvara with Tara and Bhrikuti as a pair. Then the next imagery is again a masterpiece from the Nalanda Museum, where we see Tara, Bhrikuti again together, but there are 2 more additional figures, like there is Vasudhara and Pragyaparamita too, which are included in this image. And there are a lot of allusions and a lot of corroborations given by or accounted by different scholars, which say like this is a form of Amog Pash, and because he is holding a noose. And when it is compared to the Southeast Asian or the Central Javanese plaques. So in the last, we see a Central Javanese plaque, Chandi Jago plaque of Amog Pash from the Singasari period, and showcases like the lot of similarities. Then we also have Sudhana Kumar and Suchimukh in the Nalanda panel. Then again, in the middle image from the National Museum collection, we see the bronze figure. So comparing the hierarchy, like he is the central deity, he's the protagonist of this composition, and both of them, they are just accompanying figures, and they have a shared nature with their protagonist, but they are lesser in hierarchical or spiritual ranking. So but when we see the previous imageries, there's a whole transition from the marginal status of a accompanying deity to a higher status of a main protagonist, where Tara is becoming, where Tara herself has 2 more accompanying female forms, like Ashoka Kanta Marichi and Ekajata. In the next slide, just to showcase how Tara images are also seen in Southeast Asia. So this is one of the masterpieces of Vietnam, and this is in the Da Nang Museum. So here we see like, again, scholars have worked on it and said like this is Tara image, or this could be Pragya Paramita image. Both her hands are in Vitark Mudra, and scholars have, during their excavations, they have also found some attributes which showcases and helps us to understand her affiliation. Apart from that, her headdress has a her diadem is decorated with the effigy of Amitabh. So Tara is associated with Amitabh, which is one of the Dhyani Buddhas, and he is red-bodied. So that's how like Tara has different kind of colors with respect to her association with her respective Dhyani Buddha. So going to the next slide, we see again more different forms of Tara. The first one is from Candi Mendut from Indonesia. The second one is in the Metropolitan Museum. It is a silver sculpture. This is a form of Mahatari Tara. By looking at the seated positions, she is in Padmasan, and this third one is she is in Lalitasan. So the Lalitasan images are considered as the Arya Tara, and these Padmasan images are considered as Arya Tara, as Mahatari Tara. Then going to the next slide, another important deity which needs to be talked about when we talk about the concept of female perception in Buddhism is Pragya Paramita. I briefly talked about the Pragya Paramita Sutra, but one of the most important, I would say, the innovation of such text is like the transformation of the text into a form of a goddess. So the whole process of idealization or deification became very pertinent through the emergence of the imageries of Pragya Paramita. So we have the text at one side, and then we have the image in on the other hand, which is from the Indian Museum, Calcutta. Then in the next slide, we can see how the text is also worshipped. So on a pedestal, the text is kept and it is worshipped by the devotees. And there are a lot of different kind of offerings as well. But at one corner of that little stele, there is Vajra Sattva. So Vajra Sattva, he is the Vajradhara, or he's the sixth Dhyani Buddha, and he's considered as the master or of the rituals of Vajrayana Buddhism. So he is holding the Vajra and Ghanta, and he is propitiating the text of Tara. So this is how we can understand like how the Tara cult has propagated. Then going to the next slide, again discussing about the individual imageries. So this is one of the earliest imageries of Pragyaparamita from which is in Sotheby's collection, and this is an inscribed image which says that this is a deified form of a queen from Bolor. So it has the name of the queen. So the queen herself, she was a follower, was a devout follower of Pragyaparamita text and the cult. And after she passed away, this image was made in her memory, like deifying, like while idealizing her as Pragyaparamita. The central image is from Ellora, where Pragyaparamita and Avalokiteshvara are standing next to each other. They share the similar kind of hierarchical status, and Pragyaparamita could be identified by looking at the text atop the Utpal. Then the next image from Nalanda, it again shows the text atop the Utpal, the lotus, but she is making a Dharm Chakra Pravartan Mudra. So the Dharm Chakra, like Pragyaparamita, is the propounder of emptiness, which is the core ideology of enlightenment. And some, like the text says, like she's the mother of Buddha, and her existence is as pious as the relic of Buddha. So therefore, she makes the Dharma chakra, and she's propagating the dharma of Buddha. The next image, the next slide, showcases certain imageries from Southeast Asia. So the cult is not only gained popularity in India, but we could see from Thailand. Then the other one, the central one, is from Central Java, and the last one is from Chandi Mendut. Then the next slide, we can see the deification of royal patrons in form of Pragya Paramita. So I just talked about the deification of a royal, of a queen from Bolor, taking where the Queen Jayaraj Devi of Jayaraj 7 took the form of like her imagery was made in form of Pragya Paramita, identified by the presence of Amitabh on her diadem. And this image is in the Musée Guémet. Such similar images are also like this is not the only image made in similar kneeling position, but we see a lot of similar images which exist in the Angkor Museum and also in the National Museum of Cambodia. And it was considered that Jayaraj, Jayaraj Devi was considered as Pragyaparamita, and also there was a temple of Taprom which was dedicated to Pragyaparamita. The Khmer history is well defined because of the presence of plethora of inscriptions which have been worked upon by French scholars and also the Indian scholars who have extensively studied it. Then the next image is of Pragyaparamita as from the Singosari period, and she is the portrait sculpture of Putri Dedis or Ken Dedis, which is in the Leiden Museum. So this is again another form where there is a text which says like this is the post death of the queen, which is made, and it also showcases the higher ranking of Pragyaparamita in the Mahayana Tantric Buddhism. So then in the next slide, we can see that Khmer Buddhist triad, like they start like the Khmer Buddhism also showcase the triad where Pragyaparamita is connected with Buddha in the center, and then there is this Naga enthroned Buddha. We generally associate the Naga enthroned Buddha with the Muthilind formation and associated with the life of Siddharth. But in Khmer philosophy, it has a different meaning, and the there are inscriptions and a lot of studies which are done to support that this kind of imagery is meant for Amitabh Buddha, and the central image is propitiating the ideology of dharma. Then the three jewels of Buddhism are shown by these three imageries. So Buddha is the absolute truth. The Sangha is shown by Avalokiteshvara, and the Dharma is shown by Pragyaparamita. Then the next slide is about the esoteric forms of Pragyaparamita in Khmer art. So we can see the transformation, how it began from a text. It took a form of a benign deity, and then we see the esoteric forms. So the multi-headed and multi-armed forms are also shown, and they have different kind of meanings. They are considered like the 11 heads are considered as 11 insights of emptiness, and the 22 arms are also considered as certain factors associated with enlightenment. So this kind of form is started in, we see early forms in Thailand, but then it became more prominent in the Bayon phase of Cambodia. Then going to the next slide, just to give an overview, there is a diverse realm of Buddhist goddesses apart from these two important ones. The next slide showcases the different forms. So we have Shadakshari, Mahavidya, then there is the Hariti image, then there is Parna Savari, then Ushnish Vijaya, then Arya Saraswati, Aprajita, then Brikuti, then Vasudhara, then Kurukula, then Mahamayuri. So there are different kind of female imageries which have emerged from time to time during the early medieval period from the context of Vidya, Dharani, and Mantra. The next slide showcases goddess Chunda in Eastern India and Central Javanese art. So again, another important deity which attained importance in Indonesia, I would say. This is Chunda. Chunda is associated like we find references of Chunda in Shiksha Samuchaya by Shanti Dev, and also in Arya Manjusri Mool Kalpa. This is a very important text which also talks extensively about the Tara. And again, in Sadhana Mala and Nishpan Yogavali, we can find the references. Chunda could be identified by her meditative pose, and generally she is shown with a bowl which is held atop her lap. Then the next slide showcases again the multi-armed form. So it was not only Pragyaparamita which was experiencing such multi-armed form, but sometimes it's become very difficult for us to differentiate between Pragyaparamita and Chunda. And she is also making a Dharma Chakra mudra, but her identification could be made by the attributes. So the attributes are clearly defined in the sadhanas and the text. The next slide is about Marichi. So Marichi is again an important deity, and her inspiration is associated with the god Surya when we see the chariot drawn by the 7 horses. But as her name says, and also by the excretions seen on her right face, which is of a sow, according to the text, her chariot should be drawn by the 7 sows. And if we see her attendants, they are also sow faced. So this kind of syncretism is very pertinent in Buddhist cult of goddesses. And Marichi is considered as the goddess of dawn. So she is considered as equivalent to the light of, or the luminescence which emerged with the dharma of Buddha. Then the next slide showcases Mahapratisar. So again, there are more deities. There is a whole cult of Rakshas. There are 5 Raksha. Mahapratisar is one of them. And it showcases deities, like the deity with different kind of attributes and with several hands. Then the next section, or the last section to deal with, is the female deities in union with male counterparts. So while we talk about female deities, it is essential to discuss the role of the male counterparts as well. How the male imageries, they were as important, and how their association with it cannot be ignored. So it started with Tara's association with Avalokiteshvara, and then Pragyaparamita's association with Manjusri. But then in Buddhism, we have the concept of Pragya and Upaya. So Pragya is considered as as the female principle, and upaya is considered as the male principle. And when both of them they get combined, they are considered to be pragya upaya. And we see Yab and Yum images or the Yugnanda images, which are very famous in Buddhism, and they tell the concept of non-duality. So both the bodies they combine, and then they lead to the formation or the ideology of enlightenment. Then we have different kind of rituals. So Maithuna or ritualistic copulation is one of the 5 tantric rituals, the Panch Makara, which is also there in the Shakta trends. So as I said, like different kind of sacramental practices, then different kind of such rituals involving the sexuality is seen in the highest yoga tantras, and it cannot be ignored. And it is also seen in the Shakta and Shiva agamas as well. So in the next slide, just to showcase the imageries, I have chosen Vajra Varahi and Vajra Yogini image in the next slide. So Vajra Yogini is associated with Heru. We have Dasa Mahavidyas, and she is one of them. And we have, like, we know about the imageries of Chinnamasta, where the goddess is beheading herself and the blood is oozing out, and she holds a skull cup. So such imageries are they, like from the mainstream Mahavidya cult, like such imageries also branched out and became a popular form in Buddhism. So in Buddhism we have different kind of dakinis. So but however in Hinduism the concept of dakinis is a bit different. So it is important to do a comparative study, not to only find out the linkages between both of them, but also to see the differences between them, like how one kind of practice is different from the other one. So that's I would say that's a more holistic approach to understand the iconography in about the Buddhist pantheon. Then I was talking about the text. So Goha Samaj Sadhana Mala is another text. This is not the Sadhana Mala which I had been talking about, but it says like there are 46 forms of Vajra Yogini, and the most popular one is Vajra Varahi. So the mandala, the circular one, showcases this star form of image. So this is the Dharmodaya. So these triangles also means the conception of copulation, which I was talking about. And on the outer circle, there are imageries of the Siddhas. So Naropa, Tilopa, they were like the popular Siddhas, and they were propitiating Vajra Yogini. Then the next slide is about Vajra Varahi. So in the central one, you can see the excrescence again on the head, which was seen in form of Marichi. So she has this excrescence and of the soul. So such kind of hero anthropomorphic images, or such kind of anthropomorphic images where animal forms and human forms are combined, are not only seen in the yogini images of the Shakta trend, like when we go to Mitholi or when we see Hirapur Yogini or Bheraghat, but we see a glimpse of it in the tantric imageries of the Buddhist phase as well. Then the next slide is about Vajravarahi and Chakrasambar. So as I said about the union, so in the first image, we have been always talking about the unseen presence. So we don't see the image of the female deity, but the kind of mudra which Chakrasambar is making, the mudra itself is known as pralanga. It itself, it says like he is embracing the goddess, and he is holding the Vajra and the Ghanta together, and similar kind of mudra or the pose is also made by Vajra Sattva. So the Khatavang, which is the staff with 3 skulls at the top, is the identification, or is the identifier of the presence of the female companion with Chakra Samvar. So so such figuration, like in all the forms, the female and the male element is always present. If I say, even in an individual female form, like whether it's a goddess, when we see the different kind of head ornaments she is wearing, the necklace, the diadem, the armlet, or the anklet. In Buddhist tantric texts, they all they are like, each form of ornamentation is compared with her. So they are all like the female or the male deities. They are always marked with the presence of the Dhyani Buddhas. And the sixth such marker is the ash, which is not worn by the female deities, but essentially by the male deities. And such smearing of ash helps us to understand how they were associated with the Shaiva tradition. So the Vajra, Varahi, and Chakra Samvar, the inseparability of the phenomena and the non-duality is explained by the concept of samsar and shunyata. Then the next image is about Nairatma. So we saw individual images of Vajravarahi. Similarly, in the next slide, we have individual imageries of Nairatma. So Nairatma is the consort of He Vajra. However, Vajravarahi is the consort of Chakrasambar. We have the whole text translated by David Snellgrove, which is a monumental work and should be read to understand the practices and how even Nairatma is considered as a form of Pragya Paramita. So the rank and status of Pragya Paramita is so high that she is considered to be embedded in every female deity. And she, in this, we can see like she is holding the Khatavang. So again, in this form, the Khatavang is the identifier of the male deity, which is He Vajra. And then she is holding a Kartari, a chopper. Then the next image, the next slide showcases Heruka and Nairatma. So similarly, when we see Chakrasambar and Vajravarahi, we see the mandala of Heruka, like showing 8 female deities, and then also Heruka in union with his consort, which is Nairatma. The next slide is about the mandala. So the first mandala which I showcased was of Vajratara. So similarly, such mandalas are also shown in Chakrasambar and He Vajra mandal. And it is interesting to see like in the Rubin Museum mandala, the outside of the mandala is engraved, or I would say there is Repousse work showing the Siddhas. So the Siddhas who are associated with this cult are also becoming a part of such mandala. And then we also see the sun and moon sign. The sun and moon sign plays a lot of important philosophical connotation in Buddhism and also in Hinduism. And different kind of interpretations are seen even in Central Asian art. Then the next slide, which is like the last form of this tantric imageries, is the Manju Vajra Mandala. So I thought like this would be a good inclusion, where the form of Manju Vajra in the center is getting mirrored by his own female consorts. So there are like 5 female figures at the top. So apart from the iconographic viewpoint, if we see the stele, this is quite interesting and showcases the conception of temple architecture. So the temple shikhar is in the center, which is flanked by the stupas, and each has a niche which has a female figure. So the female figure is like a mirror image of the central deity, and it creates the mandal. And the next one is again the last slide is again showcasing the same format. So Manju Vajra in the first image is not having the female deity, but in the next image he has the female deity. So this kind of posture, as I discussed in the previous Chakra Samvar image as well, it gives the connotation of the union of the both male and female form. And each of the deity could be identified by different kind of iconographic forms. And in this, the Manju Vajra is surrounded by the 5 female forms, and the 5 female forms are considered to be the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. They are the 5 female counterparts of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, and they are again having similar kind of 8-armed and 4-headed features. And also in some of the Tibetan texts, it says that they are a form of Vajratara. So there are like different kind of texts which need to be read and compared while to understand and to reinterpret such imageries from different viewpoints. So thanking you all for listening to me, and thank you so much, Disha, for being so kind and giving me this platform to showcase a part of my research.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bhattacharya. Over to you, Divyansh.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abira, for this very comprehensive talk. I would like to invite Ms. Rajalakshmi. She had a question from the previous meeting, if she wants to unmute and ask.
Yeah, so hi.
Hi.
I am a recent pass out of MSU Art History, and I was also interested in this talk because of the course. Yeah, so my question was that can we look at the Yakshis and all of these cults in connection to Sura Sundaris and Alasya Kanyas in the Brahmanical fold? So that was my first question. And the second question was, how do we look at the nudity aspect in all of these sculptures? Yeah.
Hi, Rajalakshmi. It's really nice to have the question. So, as I have been always saying, like it's important to understand the iconography from all the perspectives. I would say that yes, we can compare it with the Sura Sundaris and also from the Alasya Kanna, and then there is a whole concept of Shringar, which is there in the Indic aesthetics, like Indian aesthetics, which is distinctively talked about in Natya Shastra. So, because all these traditions, Buddhism, Hinduism, Jainism, they were emerging together, and then they also had this cross cultural assimilation factors, which could be seen in the artistic forms. So yes, if you want to study on that, I would suggest and also recommend that you can have comparative imageries to understand such formations. Besides that, talking about nudity, the concept of nudity is very much pertinent in the tantric imageries, where I haven't shown much because the time was very limited. But if you just Google and see the tantric deities, they are essentially nude, and the tantric like Vajra Yogini or Vajra Varahi could be only shown wearing human bone ornaments. Like she might be wearing a mekhla, which is like a girdle, and another like a garland made up of human skulls. So even nudity is considered as pious, and she is red bodied. So the kind of the ideology of desire is no longer considered as something which has to be like which has to be criticized as it was being done in the early tradition. So nudity and the kind of desire, the beauty of female body is kind of celebrated in the tantric practices and rituals. And as I said, the ornaments are again, they are associated with the five Dhyani Buddhas. And the sixth ornament is like the five Dhyani Buddhas are Amog, Siddhi, Amitabh, Ratna Sambhav, Vairochan, and the sixth is Vajrasattva. So the sixth ornament is of the ash. So like it is considered that all these goddesses and even the adepts, they were closely associated with the cremation grounds. And lot of practices were are still like one of the Chakrasamvar image also had a depiction of a fox and corpse. So such associations helps us to understand the significance of the ash which is smeared on the body. So she is like not nude, but she is smeared with the ash, and she is adorned with the identifiers of all the five Dhyani Buddhas.
Thank you so much for answering the question. And I would love to be in touch with you. I'm also thinking of a PhD. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Thank you for the answer, ma'am. Mr. Tushar, do you want to unmute and ask? I'm not sure if Mr. Tushar is in the room. Shall I read the question?
Ahana,
Yeah, I have read the question. Like
Sure.
he
Yeah.
wants to know about.
Sure.
He said that he cannot ask it like by on call because he's traveling. But Tusharji, I would still like to answer your question. You are curious about the artistic tradition of female Buddhism, like Buddhist goddesses. So I would say like one of the foundational works which have been done so far, like it is done by Miranda Shah and Mallar Ghosh. So Mallar Ghosh has this, like she has talked about Tara cult in Eastern India. Then we have Hiranand Shastri's work. Then there is a book by Miranda Shah, which is Buddhist goddesses. So it has the descriptions. It has like it's a very good and comprehensive book. Then there is one more book by her, which is The Passionate Enlightenment. It is mainly focusing on the female tantric adepts, like as I talked about this Lakshmin Kara and other four siddhas. So there's a, like I would say there are not much books, and but there are separate kind of researches which have been done. The recent one which I really like is by Professor Gina Kim from Berkeley. She has extensively worked on Pragya Paramita and has been, Claudine Botts Picaron has worked a lot on such aspects. So I think you can find a lot of articles on separate themes at academia. Even I have published few which I can send online.
Thank you
Thank you, ma'am.
much. There's a question by Ahana as well. Um, have you read the question?
Yes. She says, how do the Shwet Gajar dream of Queen Maya may adhere to the Buddhist shamanic tradition? So, Ahana, if you could just explain it a bit.
If you can, Ahana, if you can
Like,
unmute yourself and ask the question and elaborate on it if you want.
are you asking how the inception of the conception, the inception is happening because of the white elephant? Your mic is not working. Yeah, you can please write.
The people are asking for a comprehensive list of recommended readings on this particular topic.
I could give it, like I could extract few important readings and I can share it with you. So maybe you can share it
Yeah,
like
there's
with
another
them.
question on the contribution of women behind the advancement and flourishing of Buddhist art, both as patrons and artisans, or where we can access articles regarding this particular topic. Basically, the contribution of women behind the
Yeah.
advancement of Buddhist art.
So yes, there are a lot of female patrons, and the contribution is known through the inscriptions. So there are inscriptions at Kanheri. There are also inscriptions in Ellora. The Pal inscriptions have essentially they have a donor inscription. Lot of more, like many of the Pal steles, they have a donor inscription at the bottom on the pedestal, which gives the name of the female and the male donor who must have commissioned the image. And uh, as I said, there is no such one book which you can read and you can understand the concept. It's very much scattered. So like I got those inscriptions while I was reading something else. And but I think there is one such dedicated article by Professor Gina Kim which talks about the female patrons. So female patrons definitely played an important role. There is no such inscription or as far as I understand about the artisans, because all these imageries like which we see, the smaller ones, especially the very small ones, they were a part of a bigger mandala. So when we, like, you must have seen those mandalas which happen, like the color mandalas and the sand mandalas. So such mandalas used to exist in the past also. So those mandalas were like they were not like a permanent thing, but the central image was definitely made in kind of stone, very intricate stone or something which is in metal. And the especially the yab and yum imageries, and such small imageries were also meant for personal devotion by the monks, which were kept in their chambers. And sometimes they were also carrying these objects from one place to another. That's how the votive objects became a popular way of transmission of religion from one country to another. So I have no idea about the female participation as a as an artisan. Then Ishan Shah says, "Can the Theriga text?" Yes, it does, because it is written by the nuns, and it talks about the understanding. Like, but it doesn't talk about like, we don't relate Therigatha with the art, because it's related to early Buddhist canon. So the artistic formations which we see, they are essentially from the Mahayana phase, and the female imageries, they essentially evolved from Guha Samaj Tantra. They are coming from Guha Samaj Tantra and then Ashtasahasrika Pragaparamita Sutra. So definitely they give us a socio-political perspective of womanhood. But for understanding women in like Buddhist art, we need to understand the Mahayana Sutras in detail. Then Ahana says, seems to be a tradition of transition of color when it comes to Buddhism, and say white elephant to gray female. I think this question which Ahana is asking, white elephant to gray female practitioners, this is a bit confusing. Ahana, I would rather say you can mail me, and I'm not able to understand your question, because the white elephant doesn't transform into gray, and this conception of Buddha by his mother is a very different concept. And what I said, smearing of ash, is a tantric concept. Both of them are very different. I don't think they can be related to each other. I have done my dissertation from MA. Oh, thank you so much. Then yes, in Ajanta and Ellora, we have a lot of such couples, Mithuna couples. And as I said, like when we are studying any form of art, it has to be seen from a larger perspective, and it has to be understood by doing a comparative study. Um, I Ahana, like, I would like to understand what do you mean by Shramanic iconography? Because I'm not able to understand in your question. Maybe you can take my email ID from Disha ji,
Hannah,
and you can mail.
I will send you Dr. Bhattacharya's email address, and you can connect
Yes,
with her there. Raj Lakshmi, as an addition to the female patronage, she's added in the.
yes, yes. Yes, so as I said, like there are inscriptions. So there are a lot of inscriptions at different kind of these rock cut cave sites, where you can see the contribution of female, like how, and even like the Tara cult, the Tara imagery was on the banner of like it was on the state banner of Pal Kingdom. So you can imagine how important the goddess was. And the goddess, like as I said, in the Bolor, in the Gilgit area, the queen is becoming a goddess. So definitely the female patrons, they are lesser documented, but if we study in detail, we can find a lot of such representations. When we collate them together, then we can understand the significance of this kind, how the Buddhist cult became so popular because of the contribution of female patrons as well.
Oh, okay. I think there are I think there are not many questions. I think everyone has asked. I'm sure there'll be a lot of curiosity, because this topic for me itself is also very interesting. As as an archaeologist, I keep dealing with so many other things that often I forget to dive into these areas of research, and it's so refreshing to have Dr. Bhattacharya's work showcased on our platform. So I really want to thank everyone, especially Dr. Bhattacharya, for agreeing to be on our very small scale platform. It's not a big platform. It's a student-led platform, as you can see. And we are trying to keep up with changes, in terms of technology and time, trying to take these research to student and access it for free and not put a price tag on it. I mean, that is what our aim is, to reach out to students, to connect scholars like Dr. Bhattacharya with various senior students. We have students, a lot of students who connected with us because they are working on these in this area and this topic. So I really want to thank Dr. Bhattacharya. Thank you so much for coming on our platform and giving this lecture, the first lecture of this series.
Thank you so much, Dishaji, and I'm really glad that I could spread a little bit of awareness about this theme, because I also get a lot of queries regarding that, and I think the future scholars will definitely add, they will contribute and they will add more knowledge to this whole pool, and I'm very happy to be here. And if anybody have more questions, I would love to share the bibliography, a brief bibliography, and some of my published papers which they can refer to. And I would be really grateful if I could be of any help in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and then thank everyone who were able to join in, and thank you, Divyan. He's my colleague here at COA, a young archaeologist in training, and it's really refreshing to have young blood taking research forward. And thank you so much. And there are going to be more lectures. We have planned diverse topics, not just archaeology, but something similar to what Dr. Bhattacharya has presented, and hoping to see you all soon. Thank you so much and have a great evening.
Thank you so much,
Thank you so
Divyan.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Bhattacharya. Thank you so much. Your lecture was really extensive and really nice how interdisciplinary we can go with archaeology and gender studies. So really, it was really well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.